What's up YouTube? If you're just now joining us, we build computers in these small wooden cases. Today we're going to be going over the new ITX case by Cyberwood. But first, check out this desk mat I got for Christmas from JayzTwoCents. Man, it looks good. JayzTwoCents is not a paid advertiser or sponsor of mine. Just a big fan and love his content, and products obviously. Anyways, back to this case. So we're going to start off at the bottom with the fans. So we can put 140 millimeter fans on the bottom, but they have to be 15 millimeters thick. So that leaves us with very few options. So I got these Prelimitech fans that look great on paper. I haven't tried them yet. I will be doing a thermal test on this case later on. But for now, we're just going to review it for what we know so far. So the specs are that it'll flow 98 CFM. That is pretty incredible for a slim fan. Granted, it's 140 millimeters. I would expect high flow out of it. The cool part about it, in addition to that, is the noise is between 9 and 18 decibels. So we probably won't be hearing these a whole lot. As you can see in the middle here, there is a wider slot cut out for the connector to pass through. I did not see it at first. I actually emailed the manufacturer just to double check before I went into hacking the case. Luckily, this was hiding from me and he pointed it out. Thank you very much, Q, from Cyberwood. I appreciate your support and quick response. So, fan direction. We have these set up as exhaust fans. So the way the cooling is going to work with this case, the way it's configured right now is just an air-cooled CPU. There's no extension for the radiator or anything. So assuming we have 140 millimeter fans up top, those would also be an exhaust. Like I said, the bottom is an exhaust, and then the vents on either side act as an intake. Now, this side is where the GPU is, and this GPU has 3 fans as an intake, so that would help move some air along as well. Everything's really tight in this case. We'll get into that a little bit more in the coming up. So there's one other thing on the bottom I want to note. It's going to be really hard to see, but right here where my finger is, there is a piece of wood that comes through. It is flush right now with this bottom piece. That plate, or that piece of wood, is the mid plate where the motherboard and the PSU mounts. When I went to spin this fan earlier, it was getting hung up on this piece of wood. So now that we have some components installed, it seems to be settling in the correct spot where it's flush and not catching. But if you get this case, be mindful of this and just check your fans before powering it on. I would hate to hear about someone tearing up fan blades, or even worse, because of this minor little detail here. Moving along to the GPU. So this is an Asus TUF 3090 Ti. It is big. In fact, I think it's one of the biggest 3090 Ti's. There are two 4090s that are smaller than this. The NVIDIA Founders Edition and the MSI Ventus. They're significantly shorter, actually. This GPU is 326 millimeters long. The Founders Edition card is 304 millimeters long. That's about an inch. The MSI card is 322 millimeters long. That's also a little bit shorter. And I'm going to get into how we're going to route the hoses for the liquid cooling and why that's important in a little bit. But this card will not work with liquid cooling. We just put it in here to test to see how big we can go. The other thing is this GPU sags just a little bit. I would put a kickstand in here I will probably make one out of wood. I have plenty of wood blocks that I use in other cases. I stain them the same color as the case as well. I love this USB header right here. It's a good location and it has a USB-C port. Now on the back, the GPU plate or the support is similar to the other cases. So the instructions say to basically cut off these notches around where the GPU plate is. I do it a little bit different. I like to install it with a notch because it lines up with a hole that's in between these two right here. See these two notches, maybe kind of hard to see. But this stabilizes it much better in my opinion. And really not even in my opinion. I've done it both ways, and without it in between right here, the GPU can move around quite a bit. So that's just the way I do it. You can do it however you want. If you buy a computer from us, then this is how you're going to get it. Alright, now over to the motherboard side. Let's start with the PSU. So I really like these wooden pieces that basically screw on to the back plate of the PSU, and then these two side pieces slide in. There's a notch. It all slides together like a jigsaw puzzle, then slides into notches on this mid plate. Not only is it clean, but it is extremely secure. I mean, this thing is solid, right? So there's a little bit of room on this side to stuff hard drives. I'm going to be liquid cooling this computer, and I'll put my fan hub and controller, mount it right here. A SFX or SFXL power supply are the only options that we have for size in here, which will limit us to about 1,000 watt PSU. I don't think that's going to be a real issue, as we really won't need any more than that with what will fit in this case. Probably not a lot of 4090 builds as well, just due to the overall cost, but we'll see. Motherboard side. So motherboard goes right here. ITX motherboard is our only option, so that does also limit us, but I do like ITX boards. As far as the PCI riser cable goes, you do need to get the cable with the correct angles on it, so the GPU will basically mount to the slot there, and then on this end there's a 90-degree angle to easily connect to the motherboard without having to come all the way around and loop into the board. The best length is an 18 centimeter cable, and Cyberwood offers this specific cable here as a purchase option on Amazon. I'll throw the link down below. As far as cooling goes with the CPU, if you're going to go air cooled, you have to get a low profile radiator if you're going to go with a box style, or a fan. Can't be anything super bulky. Look at the depth that we have to work with here. It's not a lot. With liquid cooling, the water block size needs to be considered as well. I know Corsair water blocks are fairly deep, so look into that before you just start ordering parts. Now, the water cooling extension is sold separately. It includes this plate right here, which, if you're curious what all these holes here are for, it is provisions for extra hard drives and everything. It also comes with plates to mount to the back of these hard drives to then mount to this part of the plate. In this case, we're not going to be using that. Here is the extension for the water cooler. Like I said before, 280 millimeters is what we're limited to, and it will just go like that. The problem is some radiators are squared off on the corners, and it will come in contact with these standoffs that are required for the hardware. I ordered an Asus ROG 280mm AIO. So both hoses of the radiator are going to come down like this. I plan to route this hose and keep it on the GPU side and go underneath the mid plate over to this side. It isn't going to be possible to route this hose over on this side. It's going to kink it. So with that said, I'm going to have to take the front panel off after I install the radiator and everything on top to route that hose to this side. There's plenty of room on the bottom of this mid plate for cable management to route the hose over. If you plan on liquid cooling your setup in this case, like I said earlier, this GPU is too big for that reason alone, because the hose will not clear the back of the GPU. To conclude, I really like this case. It's a great design, it looks beautiful, and like any other small form factor case, it's going to be challenging to build in. Wire management is going to be tricky, but I accept the challenge. I actually like the challenge. It'll make it more exciting and interesting, and we'll make it look great. I think it'll perform very well. We will be testing thermals with the same hardware in the original Cyberwood case, and I expect it to perform very well. Even though it's small, I think that it'll dissipate heat quickly. Thanks for checking out the review today, and again, I'm not associated with JayzTwoCents. I'm wearing his shirt, yeah, and I've got the gray hair going on. But question is, who's got more gray hair, me or Jay? Comment below, let me know. Also, check out Jay. He does some great reviews. And also my buddies at Omni Ray Electronics. He just got his hands on a 7900 XTX and put it up against a 6800 XTX, and he's going to do a lot more in the future. So if you're interested in some new hardware, both of those are really good sources to compare. Alright, and that'll wrap it up for this time. And again, next time we will compare all the same hardware neck to neck, side by side with the other Cyberwood case, and that way some of the viewers can see how well the thermals actually do in this case. The wooden cases are really great. It's not a fire hazard, and the thermals are awesome. I've seen better thermals in this case than regular run-of-the-mill mid-towers, full-size towers with 13 fans in it. They're so small they dissipate heat quickly. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.